what would you say are some of the common challenges faced by parents during the postpartum period?
So postpartum stress is the biggest one. So stress during pregnancy and after childbirth. So imagine you're a dad. You have to provide support, full support for your wife, but you have no support yourself. Okay, so some men feel like they get to pour into their wife a lot, but nobody's pouring into them because it's a lot of attention on the mom for right reasons. The mother needs a lot of attention, a lot of attention, and a lot of support. But the man is also going through some changes. So the transition from a baby boy to a baby daddy, it's not always easy, So you have more responsibilities. Okay, so the baby's crying at night, you cannot sleep, your wife cannot sleep, your wife is crying, the baby's crying. It's a lot of stress. And you have to be strong for them. You have to provide support for them. That creates a lot of stress. Sometimes men struggle with the anxiety of providing for the family, especially in patriarchal societies like Nigeria, where there's a lot of expectation on the man to provide all the needs for the family. And so, if there's pressure on cash, that creates a lot of anxiety. And then, what I see is men, some men begin to get resentful towards the baby. Even though they love the child, they resent the child still for creating so much stress in the life of their wives, in their own lives too. And then some men feel inadequate. It's like, am I even going to be a good enough dad for this child? So that feeling of inadequacy then creates guilt, which then spirals into depression. So those are some of the things that I've seen in the field so far in terms of how postpartum depression manifests in men and the challenges that they get to experience. Lack of sleep, clearly, for mom, for dad, when the baby's crying all through the night, both parents cannot sleep. You know, Sleep deprivation is a well-known torture technique. Okay, so
Hmm.
if you want to break a person, deprive them of sleep, you can break them. So imagine
Yeah.
going without sleep for over 3 months because your baby's adjusting to being in Nigeria, especially. That's a lot of adjustment for the child. But on a more serious note, just that pressure that parents feel, it's a lot. It's a lot, and that's why I always advocate for support. Like both parents, both mom and dad need as much support as they can get during pregnancy and after childbirth.
Yeah, that's very true. Talking about some of the changes that happens in a family when a new child comes into the picture. There's this funny thing my mom always says. Like she said, because I'm the last child, right? I have elder sisters. She said my immediate elder sister, when I was born, she's like 2 years older than me. She was always annoyed. She was like, "You've come to steal my mommy away," and all of those things. So having listening to you right now and understanding some of the family dynamics, I can also relate to the fact that it also affects previous children and the rest of it. Yeah, and one of the things I think one of the most powerful things I spent a lot of time on your social media page, and one of the most powerful thing I actually came across is when a child is born, a mother is also born, and I've never ever thought about it that way. That was really really eye opening, and I think as a society, I think we forget that, we get lost in the whole thing that a child has come to stay, but we don't actually think about the fact that typically, like you talked about the whole baby boy thing, like the baby girl too, that has always been looked after. She always like whatever, what, and now she has to focus all her needs and all her attention on a single individual, and her mood is dependent on how the child is doing. Basically, if the child is sick, we all know what happens to mothers when they have a sick child, and if the child is happy and the rest of it. So that was something I never really thought about, and when I saw that, I was like, yes, I think this more of this needs to be put out there, and people need to understand that this is just the under the surface reality that faces us every day, but we never stop to acknowledge it. So with that in mind, what would you say are some misconceptions about postpartum mental health challenges?
I mean, the normal myths are there, like, people think that a woman is just a bad mom. She's
Hmm.
just being ungrateful and she's overreacting. So other people believing that black people, Nigerians, Africans don't struggle with their mental health. Certainly not when they have babies. People think that when a woman has a baby, she should always be joyful, she should always be happy. These are some misconceptions because some moms don't, have any of that joy. It's just stress and mental health challenges. So those are a couple misconceptions. The other thing is people tend to confuse postpartum depression with postpartum psychosis. So too often you see in the news when a woman hurts her baby, you hear people say things like, "Oh, she has postpartum depression." No, she doesn't. So because I think that postpartum psychosis being used interchangeably with postpartum depression creates even more stigma for moms who might not be psychotic. The other thing is like people think that postpartum depression is, every postpartum mental health challenge is postpartum depression. Like they made the same mistake with psychosis. Moms who struggle with anxiety, postpartum anxiety, get neglected because it does not look like depression. Okay, so you have moms who struggle with postpartum OCD, also does not look like depression, so they fall through the crack to not get the support that they require. Many people also feel like they can overcome postpartum depression by themselves. Like you don't need any help. You can work on yourself. It's just like having cancer and saying you're going to stay at home and treat yourself. It's not possible. You
Hmm.
need a professional to help you navigate such a serious illness. So those are some of the misconceptions. Again, people think that's a spiritual problem, which is why a lot more people see their pastors than they see therapists when they struggle with their mental health because they think that there's something spiritually wrong with them. I know certainly in my family when my relatives suffered postpartum psychosis, everybody wanted her to go see a pastor, one pastor or the other, go to one mountaintop or the other, instead of to go see a mental health professional. So those are some misconceptions. Other people think that if you've had it before, you cannot have it again, which is not true. If you have postpartum depression before, it's actually a risk factor for having it again. So these are common misconceptions I think that people have when it comes to postpartum mental health challenges.